all mistakes even mistakes? If there's one thing I'm learning at the age of 24, tell that she was really anxious. I can never call it a mistake. Hey everyone! So a few days ago at work I had one of those enlightenment moments, if you will, where I had to just stop for a few seconds and think, you know, I think I get it now. And obviously I'm sure you've seen the title of this video and you've already figured out that today I want to talk about our mistakes and why our mistakes might not necessarily be mistakes. But before that, let me set the scene of what I want to talk about by reading out to you an excerpt from a little Zen story. It will make sense, I promise. Just bear with me, I promise you it will make sense. Now this is a story about a farmer who had worked on his crops for many years. One day, the farmer's horse runs away, and all of the neighbours come around commiserating and sympathetically saying, "That's such bad fortune." But the farmer doesn't react. He simply says, "Maybe." The next morning, the horse that had run away comes back with 3 wild horses. Once again, the neighbours gather round and say, "How wonderful, how amazing, you've got 3 new horses." And the farmer simply replies with, "Maybe." The following day, the farmer's son tries to ride one of the horses, and upon trying to do so, he gets kicked off and he breaks his leg. And what do you know, the neighbours are back again and commiserating and saying, "My condolences, I'm sorry, that's such bad fortune." And once again, the farmer replies with, "Maybe." And the day after that, the military officials came into the village, hoping to take away all of the young men in order to recruit them into the military. But having seen that the farmer's son has had a broken leg, they simply passed them by. And once again, the neighbours came into the village and said to the farmer, "Congratulations, this is such good fortune." And once again, he replied, "Maybe." Now, I absolutely love this story, and I really hope that the significance of it hits you in the same way that it hit me when I first heard about it. Now, the message that can be consolidated from that story is that life is fluid. There is no such thing as good or bad. Things are dynamic, things are changing, things are relative. So I guess if you approach life and approach your mistakes with that kind of mentality, are our mistakes even mistakes? And that's kind of been the question that I've been asking myself since I had a little experience happen to me that I want to share with you. So, to get into the actual story, I was taking blood from a cancer patient in the clinics last week. And to give you a bit of a context, if you aren't already familiar, I currently work as a research technician at King's College London. And in addition to a part of my role being involved in experiments and doing cancer research, the other part of my role involves going into the clinics, consenting, recruiting, and taking blood samples from cancer patients in the hopes of being able to carry out research that can hopefully one day lead to the development of new treatments. So, that is my job, and that is why I was taking blood from a patient. Now, the patient who I was taking blood from was a lady in her mid-60s, and she had consented to donating around 35 ml of blood for research purposes. This itself is a very small amount of blood, and it shouldn't do the patient any kind of harm. In fact, do you see this little plaster over here? This is me donating blood to research as a healthy volunteer once on Friday and once on Monday. So essentially I'm just turning my arm into a sieve. The point being that taking such a small amount of blood shouldn't have any kind of effect on how you feel. Not physically anyway. Now, just before I went to take blood from this patient, I could tell that she was really anxious. And as I was preparing all of the equipment, she told me how she's really scared of needles, even though she really wants to contribute to this research project. Now, obviously, this made my heart sink a little bit because I wanted her to feel at ease and I wanted her to feel comfortable. So gently, I put all of the equipment together and I was doing this in silence and I was ready. And I put the needle in and I started to take the blood. And I decided, you know what? This is the time to put on my chatty hat. So I started asking her about her afternoon and what her plans were. And she started telling me about her granddaughter and how she's going to pick her up from ballet and how they're going to go out. And she started telling me about her daughter and the fact that she has a few sons. And the fact that she loves spending time with her granddaughter because she's 10 years old and they're really great at that age. And I started telling her about Jack's little brother and how he's 10 and how it's amazing to have grandkids where you can just, give them back at the end of the day. And so on and so forth. And when I was finished, she got up and she looked at me and she said, you know, I didn't feel a thing, but I guess the fear's all in the mind, you know? And it was only after she had left, when I was thinking about what she had said, I kind of had the realization that just through the small act of making small talk and being a little bit more chatty, I had managed to change somebody's mood and make them feel more at ease and make them feel happy and smiley and a lot less anxious. Now bear with me, I know you're probably wondering, where is this story going? But it has a moral, I promise, just hang in there. Weirdly, I realised that, you know what, I think I'm actually quite good at small talk, which is news to me because small talk is something that not only have I always hated in a way, but I never thought it was something I was good at. Especially in university, I remember even trying to make casual small talk with people my own age would be awkward and weird, and sometimes I would have difficulty even like keeping eye contact. And in any kind of event where I felt like somebody else was feeling nervous or anxious or awkward, I would feel twice as nervous and anxious and awkward, let alone being able to shift them from that mindset into a more positive one. And this is the funny thing. I realized that all of these skills that I have miraculously developed and not really been aware of were kind of like an amalgamations of the experiences I had when I worked in retail for half a year after I finished my undergraduate degree. Now, I should say that after I did finish my undergraduate degree, a lot of people told me that I need to get straight into a job and straight into my field, and that if I do anything otherwise and stray away, then I will be losing time and I'll be making a mistake and I will be wasting precious years, or months I should say. I remember we would have customers who were frustrated and impatient and sometimes just in a pure bad mood. And as somebody in customer service, it was my job to make them feel at ease and to lighten their mood and, you know, be jokey and chatty and friendly and help them find what they're looking for and help them overcome whatever issues they were having. And there are times that I think back now and I think, well, could I have used that year more productively? And if you want to refer back to the story, I guess you can't answer that. How will I know? It might have been a good thing. Maybe. Might have been a waste of time. Also maybe. But to bring it back into the present day, it was only after I saw that patient that I realised that, you know, mistake or not, waste of time or not, I went through a period of my life and I gained some very, very valuable skills that are helping me in where I am right now. And for that reason, I can never call it a mistake. I can never have regrets about it. Because that mistake, if you may, is what helped me to grow me into the person that I am today. Somebody who miraculously has the capacity to make somebody giggle or make them feel at ease when they've got a needle in their arm. And now I tell you all of this story for two reasons. Firstly, to help you understand that even if you have made a mistake that you think is a huge mistake, it might not be quite as bad as you think. And in fact, it might be somewhat of a blessing in disguise because the lesson you are learning is far greater than the downsides of the mistake. I hope that makes sense. But also, going back to the farmer's story, I tell you all of this because I think even when things are going your way and even when you are certain that you are on the right path, it's important to remember that little Zen story and to make sure that you stay grounded. And I think much like the farmer, it's important to say maybe to the mistakes and also the achievements. Because if there's one thing I'm learning at the age of 24 every single day, is that life is less about the mistakes and the right decisions and more about being authentically yourself and living life in a way that feels right to you. And it's a little less about living up here in your head and a lot more about living down here in your gut. And I hope that was some food for thought for you today. Do give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and once again, thank you for being here. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already, and also to press the little bell icon to make sure you get a notification every time I upload a video. Leave your thoughts and comments with me down below. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you later.